it's Mr Lovesey here. Today we're going to do a little science experiment. So in year one we've been learning about materials in the last couple of weeks. We've been learning about different plastic, paper, wood, metal and fabric. And what we're going to do today is we're going to use some objects to see if they sink or float. So before we start, I'm just going to explain something. So we have a football and a marble, okay? And I'm going to put them in the water and I want you to see what happens to the marble and the football. Is the marble going to sink? Is it going to float? Is the football going to sink? Is it going to float? I'm not too sure. Let's have a look. I'm just going to drop them in. And the marble has sunk to the bottom and the football is floating on the top, okay? Now just because the marble is smaller doesn't mean it's always going to float. Now the football is bigger than the marble, but the football was floating. And the reason why is because we say the football is less dense. It's less dense because there is air inside, so it's not as heavy, whereas the marble has got matter inside it. So because it was heavier, it sunk straight to the bottom. But that's just to say, just because something is bigger doesn't mean it's always going to sink, okay? So what we're going to do, I've got a few objects here. I'm going to get you to predict, which means guess, if they're going to sink to the bottom or if they're going to float on the top. Are you ready? First thing I've got is a pair of scissors. Now do you think it's going to sink or is it going to float? You can have a little moment to guess. I'm going to drop it in the water and let's see what happens. I'm going to drop them in. Oh, and it sinks. The scissors sink and it's gone straight to the bottom. Next one, I've got some of my lunch today. I've got a little tangerine or an orange. What do you think? Do you think it's going to sink or is it going to float? Have a little guess, predict, have a little prediction. Do you remember predict means to guess? I'm going to drop it in. Oh, big splash. And it's floating. It's floating. And the reason why this might be floating because there's little pockets of air inside, and that's why it's floating. Next one, I'm going to have two objects. I've got a metal spoon and a plastic spoon. I wonder which one will sink, which one will float. Will they both sink? Will they both float? Let's have a look. I'm going to put the metal one in first. And it sinks. It's gone straight to the bottom of the tub. And the plastic spoon, it's floating. If you have a look, it's floating on the top. So this means that the metal spoon is more dense and the plastic spoon is less dense. That's why it floated to the top. And a couple more things. Oh, I've got a pound coin here, a coin. What do you think? Is it going to sink or is it going to float? Have a moment to guess. Let's see. It will sink. Again, it's gone all the way to the bottom. Next thing I've got some dice. Some dice that we use these quite a lot in school. You might have some at home as well. Do you think the dice, are they going to sink or are they going to float? And they sink. They've gone right to the bottom as well. Next thing I've got is a pencil. Pencil which we use a lot to write with in school and at home at the moment. So do you think the pencil, is it going to sink or is it going to float? Now pencil's made of wood. Let's have a look. And it floats. It's right at the top of the water there. It's floating on the top. And we've got a couple more things. I've got this small ball here and I'm going to use the marble again. Now I used the marble earlier. I wonder if you can remember, did it sink or did it float on the top? I'm going to drop them in at the same time. Which one's going to sink, which one's going to float? You ready? And the marble has gone all the way to the bottom, it sinks. And the red ball here is floating. Now remember, this red ball, that means it's less dense. That's why it's floating at the top, because this ball is full of air and the marble is full of matter, and that's why it has sank. Okay, so that was our little experiment today, and you can do something like this at home as well. You just need a small bowl of water. You can get a few objects from your home, ask your parents or carers to help you choose some things to put into the water, and then you could write up your ideas, write up your predictions, write up what you found out. You can even draw some pictures, and I'm sure all your teachers will love to see that. And year 1, this is what we're doing for our science this week, so we're looking forward to seeing your wonderful science experiments at home. I will see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.